Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome back to our Working Together series, live from the Netiv Zoom room out of Houston, Texas, with Rod Bryant, and we're just waiting on Rabbi Karmi Ingber to arrive, which should be right along here. But in the meantime, let's just tune right in. Rod is doing. Rod, shalom, shalom. Good to be with you as always. I love your high-resolution camera. Man, we can see every whisker
every
in your beard.
imperfection, every sin, every corruption, and Baruch Hashem, he cleanses us of those things.
That's right.
We serve an amazing God. As a matter of fact, it's interesting that we say this. God is so good, and we're in the midst of such a tumultuous time worldwide. And yet we all sit here with incredible peace and security because we know who's in charge. We know absolutely who's in charge. We're not dependent upon a government.
Yeah.
We're not dependent upon financial systems. We're only dependent upon Hashem. And that's what's going to guide us through this element. We all just need to keep our head about ourselves, because I have the feeling that the days ahead are going to be some really scary days. It's coming. I'm telling you, it's coming.
People, look up something called Universe 25.
Okay, I've never heard.
Universe 25. It was based off of an experiment where they put a ton of rats into an area, a certain enclosure, right? A whole bundle of them into an area, and provided all the food and the water, and then realistically started to remove that as the population was grown, and the responses and the way it responds. And we know the way things are run from the meddlers in this world, those that want our power structure are hungry, always looking to manipulate for their gain.
Absolutely.
It's just something unique to look up and ponder in the notion, as humanity. If resources become scarce, who's pulling them away, and for what purpose? That Universe 25. I'll take
a look. I've never heard of it. Look, all I know is that there are more of us. I know that it's hard to think of that, but there are more of us in this world than there are of them. And we need to keep that in mind. And that's why we need to keep our focus and our concentration on righteousness and goodness and the Torah. And those who don't know the Torah, I would love them to come to it. I just want to encourage them to do righteous acts. Rabbi Ingber is joining us, but slowly. He must be on Atlanta time. He's got a Southern mule. That's possible. They don't move very fast. Maybe he's riding
we up here in Canada, we appreciate the Texas mindset.
Oh boy, the Canadians. Look, as a matter of fact, I'm a big ham radio operator, and the Canadian operators have been just blowing our doors off here in Texas. Been talking to them in Ontario. I mean, all through from west to east. To actually sit and listen and talk to these guys are amazing.
We got a couple of eggheads up here. Yeah, people who know what they're talking about. Some.
Yeah, some. Well, see, I had actually there's two people joining. Now you have two. This morning, someone was trying to join. Every time I clicked to enter, they would sit there and they'd disappear and come back in. So I don't know what's happening. Okay, made it in. So let's see if his camera's not on. Well, now we have it. Rabbi Ingber, can you hear us? There we go. That's all right.
Yeah, I'm good. Okay. Hi, guys. Sorry, I couldn't get on for some reason, but I'm here.
Excellent. You look fantastic.
Okay, thank you. How's it all going? How are things going?
Beautiful, beautiful. I like the jacket. It's a nice touch with the tweed. I always enjoy wool. Wool. Is it wool? It looks like it's wool.
Yeah, it's wool.
I like wool.
Yeah, I'm sorry I don't have the patches on the elbows.
Yeah, well, we'll upgrade later on. It just looks nice.
Okay, good. Okay, so the patch in the elbow, then I could.
Yeah, you could do that. Its thing is they never go out of style. So you just grab them up and pull them out in a certain time of the year. It's fantastic. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Rabbi. We really appreciate you coming into the group. And we're already streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. And I want to let people know how much we appreciate you joining us on YouTube and Facebook. Make sure you give us your questions. Dan is monitoring the questions and comments. We appreciate it. And also take time to go to our website, which is Netiv Online, Netiv online.org. And if you need to get some information, contact Rabbi Ingber. If you're angry, can contact Dan, not me. If you're happy, talk to me. I like to talk to happy people. So, Rabbi, it's all yours.
Okay, good. Good to see everybody.
Recording in progress.
Well, I figured what we're going to do today is, God willing, we're heading to Israel this week. Very excited. We'll be next week already broadcasting from the Holy Land. Very exciting. But I thought right now we have coming up this week is going to be the new month of Nisan, the month of Passover. So I want to talk about the month of Nisan, Passover, some differences between Jews and non-Jews in this area, and similarities and differences that we can learn from. Okay, so let's jump into this month, because for the Jewish people, this is actually the first month of the year, which is very interesting because for the general world, the new year begins on Rosh Hashanah, which is in the fall. The Jewish people, they became a nation in this month, in the month of Nisan, and therefore this is for the Jewish people to count as their first month of the year, which is very interesting because, every society counts time differently. The Muslims count according to the lunar cycle only. So for the Muslims, the holidays that they have rotate throughout the year, because if it's the same lunar month, so the lunar cycle has 11 days, and I can't exactly count the day itself, but 11 days less in the solar cycle. So in 9 years, you're 3 months behind. Right? It makes sense? So the Muslims, their holidays shift every year. They count by the lunar cycle. The Western world counts by the solar cycle. Okay, that's when the year starts, is the solar year. The Jewish calendar is a combination of the two. You count by the lunar cycle, but there's an obligation to line up the year. The Passover always falls in the spring. I want to explain that a little bit. I want to explain to you why the Jewish people count according to the moon. Why according to the moon? And if you look at it, it's fascinating because the holiday of Passover is in the 15th day of the lunar cycle, 15th day of the month. Now, what is unique about the 15th day of the lunar cycle? The moon is full. And if you look at pretty much all the Jewish holidays, they fall when the lunar cycle, when the moon is full. Passover, Sukkot, and the holiday of Shavuot, which comes after Passover, is really an extension of Passover. It's 50 days or 7 weeks, the cycle of 7 times 7 from Passover. So really, the three festivals, the ones that are locked in, their times are on the 15th of the month, when the cycle is full. Now, the reason why it's lined up with the moon is because this is a requirement of the Jewish people, and I want to share with you for many reasons, because we're talking openly, and we're friends, and we're sharing different ideas and differences and similarities. It's important to understand certain challenges. So, when people talk about the Jewish people, and there's a conversation called about the chosen people, it sounds very, very difficult. It sounds from a perspective of a Torah which is so accepting of everyone in every way. As the Medrash says, I don't care if a person, God says, if you search me out and you act righteously, you will be rewarded, whether you're male, female, Jew, non-Jew, every single person, whatever you are, because it doesn't go by, there's no hierarchy of Yes, well, I'm better than someone else. That's incorrect. Every human being is valuable and every human has their service. So what does it mean, the idea of the Jews as a chosen people? How do you understand this? We talked about this many times, but I wanted to just clarify because it's relevant to this point. So the simple idea first is when God created Adam and Eve, everyone was able to choose God. There was no such thing as one nation. It was all Atem Krim Adam. You were all mankind, and everyone in all of humankind could go and connect to God. But what happened was the world became very, very bad, and people didn't do that. If you look at archaeology, you'll see that people were having human sacrifices. They were idolaters. They were terrible. The world was getting worse and worse. Now, one person then chose God. It's a little different than God choosing them. One person chose God. Who was that? That was Abraham. The whole world was against him, and he said that there's a God. So he chose God. Now, therefore, at a certain point, God said, everyone didn't choose God, and therefore, everyone will have a basic requirement to go and to live righteously. If somebody wants the more intense obligation that Abraham took on as serving God completely, they can convert. They don't have to. Again, when God gave the Torah, he made that option available. So what happens is that it's not that the Jews were chosen in the sense that, oh, you can get chosen, but since the father of Jewish people, Abraham, chose God, he said, I want to serve you completely. That mission came to the Jewish people, and everyone, and this is what's crucial, I want you all to understand, is that everyone who participates in that and connects that is part of that mission. That means whether a person becomes Jewish or whether they don't become Jewish and they're righteous, noachide, but they understand the Jewish people have a certain mission and they're connected to that mission. That's crucial. Now, this is why I want to explain to you why the Jews count by the lunar cycle. It's very, very difficult. Because a Jewish person should never go around saying, well, I'm the chosen people, blah, blah, blah. No. The Jewish people has to take the role of the moon. The moon has no light of its own. Its job is just to reflect God in the light of the sun. That's all it does. The moon doesn't have light. It reflects the light. And therefore, the Jews have the job to reflect God in the world by making themselves humble and not there. As a matter of fact, it's incredible. You read about King David. People don't understand King David. King David is certainly the most misunderstood of all of the figures of the Torah. King David was the greatest. He was the person who put it all together. He was the Torah scholar. He was the singer, the one who praised God. He was the king. He was the humblest. He was everything. He was really a combination of all these qualities. King David's whole approach in life was he took nothing for himself. If you go and you read in the book of Samuel or the book of Tehillim, King David says, I am a dead dog. He calls it a dead dog. I mean, how many people talk like that? Like, I'm a moth. This is the greatest person in the world. And he talks like that. Who speaks like that? He's the king. But King David had a certain quality of nullifying himself. It says that it used to be the teacher would sit on the couch and the students sat on the floor. David sat on the floor also. He was the king. But David understood that he had to be a conduit to bring God in the world. And that's an amazing thing. King David was laughed at by the other kings. Imagine that. Imagine, Harry and Meghan and all the royalties are sitting there laughing at King David. King David, you're a king? We get up late in the day, we have the servants bring us food, and we're royalty and we're important. What was King David's day like? You know what his day was like? It says that the whole day he's dealing with the nation's needs, and he's learning Torah, he's teaching Torah. And then what happened was at night, he would stay up all night learning Torah. King David never slept more than 20 minutes at a time. He didn't sleep his whole life. He would doze off at night. He would learn Torah and he would doze. He never dozed more than 20 minutes. And what he did was he had a harp. Right? He was a musician. He had a harp. And he put it over his bed. And when the dawn came, there was a southern wind that would come into his palace. It would hit the harp strings. That was the alarm. They didn't have an Apple phone in those days. He had the alarm string. The strings would sound. He would take up the harp, and he would sing praises of God until the morning. That was King David. And they laughed at him. They said, "You're a king. You're up all night. You're up all night. You're serving God. This is what you do. You're not a king." But that is exactly what being a king meant. Because when you take the honor for yourself, then you make yourself your own God. King David was able to be the king because he said, "I'm just being a conduit for God." That's what he was. And that's why he was made the king. And that's why, by the way, it's an amazing law. There's a law in the Torah. It says a king needs to carry around a Torah scroll wherever he goes. Can you imagine that? I never even seen it. When people carry a Torah scroll, everyone stands up, and you got to be very careful. God forbid if it would fall, people have to fast for 40 days. He carried a Torah scroll. He had to carry wherever he went. Could you imagine that? You go to the baseball game, you have a seat for you and for your Torah. I mean, it's like unbelievable. Whatever you do, you carry around a Torah with you. It's incredible. Why? The verse says, the Bilti Ram Levavo. He shouldn't say, "Hey, I'm the king. I'm better than you all." No. He has to keep the Torah with him at all times to realize if he wants to bring God's message into the world, he can't take any credit for himself. He has to be a conduit. And that's what counting to the moon means. It's very difficult, but it's a person that we have to, a Jewish requirement, and this is true for everyone, but at different degrees, and I'll explain the different degrees, but it's true for everyone. The more we feel that we got it, the more we push God out of the picture, right? I know. If my cup is full, you can't put anything in the cup because it's full. So if I know. I shared this with you once, an amazing thing. King David was the one who sang songs to God. He praised God. He thanked God. It was called Hodah. In Hebrew, the word is called Hodeh or Modeh, to thank and to praise God. King David is also called the ultimate in the Baal Tshuva, the person who realizes he's wrong and admits he's wrong. Now, this is incredible. In Hebrew, the word to thank and the word to admit you're wrong is the same word. Modeh means I admit. King David admitted he was wrong. Whenever he did something, he admitted he was wrong right away. He had no problem with that. He had no problem. And by the way, it's a good practice. Look in the mirror every day and say, I made a mistake, I was wrong. Because it's not a big deal. Someone tells us we're wrong, we stand up, no, I was right. Well, why? You can't be wrong. People are wrong. You can make mistakes. God still loves you. You made a mistake. Okay, admit you're wrong. King David admitted it very easily. And he also had the quality of thanking God. And the word to admit you're wrong, modeh, is the same word as to thank. Why? It's obvious, because the person who thinks they're always right never thanks anybody. Why am I thanking you? I don't need you. I got it myself. The more that we understand that we have human foibles, we have shortcomings. So what happens is we are able to admit we're wrong, and therefore we're able to see when other people provide things for us and thank them. So King David is the admitter, I'm wrong, and at the same time he's the thanker, saying, thank you for giving me, God. That's that quality. And that really is the quality of being like the moon. And I say, even though the Jewish people have it as a special requirement, it's intrinsic for everyone's relationship in life is to realize that the more I take credit and the more I am a self-contained system, the more unable I am to receive from beyond me. Okay? It's amazing. You have different, like, if this could be another topic itself, but the windows of our face are very unique. There's a whole Kabbalistic thing about the soul and how it works, and it comes through the eyes and the ears, nose, and there are seven. If you know, there's 7 orifices in your face, and the face is a miniature of the whole body. About 7 many times. You have the 2 ears, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, and the mouth. And this whole process of the different senses. So if I'd ask you all, this you could answer, which sense you think is the most important? There's an open question. What sense would you say is your number 1 sense? So we have, Cheyenne says smell. Very interesting. Okay, Dan, I heard you. Let's say, Cheyenne, why would you say sense of smell first?
I heard in a drosh one time that's the only sense that your neshama benefits from. And then they were talking about the importance of that in the Havdalah ceremony.
Right. So so now the sense of smell has a very unique quality. Let me explain it a little bit. Because the eyes are still higher on the person. And the height of it is a symbol in a certain sense of how great it is. The eyes are higher, ears are lower, nose lower, mouth lower. So there's a certain hierarchy, but they each have unique quality. So the nose, it's the only sense that Adam and Eve did not sin with. If you look at the text there, they saw the tree, they listened to the serpent, they tasted it, but there's no place of smell. Smell has a connection to your soul. Let me explain how the sense of smell has a connection to your soul. When you go, let's say you want to go to a store and you want to see the best fruit. So do you look at the ones that are crushed up and smashed? No. You want to see things nice and whole. When you smell something, you know how you smell it better? When you take the spices and you crush them up, the smell comes out. The sense of smell is the ability to pick out something that is undiscernible. That's why it says the Mashiach judges with a sense of smell. Because sometimes you meet a person and, I don't know, something not right about this guy. Something a little bit funny, a little bit fishy, you say, because fish smells, right? Something not right here. You could sense it, but it's not obvious. So the sense of smell has a quality that is beyond some of the other ones in picking out things that are hidden, right? Something that you can't see, so it's not obvious. And that's why the sense of smell does have a connection to the soul, because it pulls out something that is special that I can identify it, which is really the whole story of Purim. The whole story of it was the sense of smell. The Jews looked like they were lost. They were part of the other nations. And the name Hadassah, name Esther is a myrtle. It's a spelling branch. And the name of Mordechai is also, it's called the myrrh. It's this phrase of myrrh, because they look like they were like the Persians. They looked like they were absorbed into them, and they was able to smell and to sense something beyond. So the sense of smell has a greater quality because it's something beyond. All right, good. I like that one. Dan, what did you say? You said the ears, Dan, you said?
I said the ears, Rabbi, because I'd heard the comment that they're always open, right? Unlike our eyes. I think might have been yourself who said it, but it might have been Rabbi Goldberg. I'm not sure.
Right. Yeah, I'm always, it's hard to remember what you say, where you say it. So I think I did say it a couple weeks ago. So I'm going to say it again. So I think, but that's not obvious, because normally the eyes are what we always think is the best, the highest, and in a certain way it is. The eyes see the whole picture, and therefore the eyes have a quality that is higher than everything. And people in our world, seeing is believing. There is no sense as dramatic to you to know something is true than when you see it. Think about it. Somebody tells you something. God tells Moses, the Jewish people have sinned. But it's words. When he sees it, he breaks the tablets, because when he sees it, it affects him. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, be careful about your television set. Be careful about your kids watching this stuff. It goes into the brain. They don't even know what they saw. They don't even know what they saw. You know, it's like that. What did they call it? I always forget this word. It's like I made it. I always think it's fudgeway. It's not fudgeway. What's the word? Fudgeway. What's the word? There's a word we got set up a room with a certain. What's it called? I always forget the word. What's it called? So, hey, what's it? Feng shui, right?
Feng shui, yeah.
Right. I make a joke. I say fudge way, and I get it wrong now. Feng shui. So the feng shui of the room is really important. So we had some people over a little while last week. We played some music. We got together after Shabbat. So I'm sitting there getting the whole lighting and the things. What's going on? When you walk into a room, there's an ambiance. You don't even know what it is. You just feel something. Wow, I don't know. I feel really comfortable. You can't even, like, in your mind, you don't realize, oh, it's because the lights are this way, the couches are this way. It hit you all at once. And that's why the sense of sight is so powerful, because it hits you and it's all contained in there, and your mind just drinks it up in 1 second. You don't even know what you saw. Again, that's why we got to be careful with what the kids see on TV. And by the way, people, and like I said to you many times, don't be naive to not realize that there is a spiritual and cultural war going on, and they want the images to go into your kids' heads. They do. I mean, like literally, I can go into any place. See, I'll point to an advertisement. I'll say, this is what they're trying to brainwash you. And once you see it, you don't realize, like, oh, that's normal. That's okay. That's good. And your mind brought it. And that's why it says, I need to look into a face of a Russia, an evil person. I think someone's an evil person. I try to avoid looking at their face. It has an effect. It's something. So the eyes in a certain way is called knowledge. It's clear. It's me. When I see, I believe. You told it to me, but I see it clear. I know it. But the ears, as you said, Dan, and there's an amazing law. If you blind someone, you pay for the value of the eye. But if you make them deaf, you pay the whole person. And the reason is that the ears are open, like you said, Dan, because it's the ability to get from outside of yourself. That's why they're always open, because it's the ability in a certain way to go beyond yourself. My eyes, I see it, I believe it. Listening, Shema Yisrael, hear, oh Israel, hear God, Hashem, our God, Hashem is one. When you get something from outside of you, you can be elevated to the next level. So if you're learning from someone, so like I was talking to one of my students this week, I said, listen, don't be afraid to ask me this question. I told the student of mine, I said, listen, the role is that you're supposed to, when you're a student, you're supposed to be able to ask your questions you don't know. But then when you do know, you don't need to ask anymore, because I know that I've already been trained that this is what my rabbi would answer me. So then don't ask, because then you have enough knowledge to answer yourself. But I said, don't be afraid to go and ask when you have to, because you know what? Because then what you're doing is you're not limited by your knowledge, you're limited by the knowledge to which you make yourself subservient to. So if you ask a question and you don't know, and then you go and you ask me, so then whatever I know is going to be affecting to you know. And then when I don't know and I go beyond to where I don't know, then I go there. And then as high as we go up, to say, okay, it's not my answer, I don't know, I'm open to hearing what the Torah says, then I'm actually getting a conduit from God that is endless. Unbelievable. Literally unbelievable. It's a conduit that's endless, because like I don't know. But I have an open ear to hear beyond me. So that is a quality that we all have to have, and that's why we count. The Jewish people count by the moon, because they have to epitomize this quality, and that's why it's an amazing thing. The holidays are the 15th of the month. Do you know if you count from Avraham, until King Shlomo, David's son, how many generations would you guess there would be? 15. Why? Because 15 is the cycle to the moon being full. And that's why King Shlomo, King Solomon, what's his name? Shlomo. He's Shalem, he's whole. He was supposed to be the Mashiach, the Messiah, son of David. Who's the son of David? It was Shlomo. He was potential, and he tried to be the Mashiach. He really did. People don't understand who he was. His greatness was that he knew his job was to be the Mashiach. I think we talked about this many times before. I want to just say it again for those who haven't heard. People say, King Shlomo, what did he do? He married 1,000 women. What was going on? Crazy stuff. And it says in the Torah, a king can't have too many wives. Why did he do all these things? Why did he do it for? And because he did it, he did not become Mashiach. That's true. But what was he thinking? So who knows what was King Shlomo, the great King Shlomo, thinking when he went and he married all these wives? Anyone know? What did he do? God said not to do it, and yet he did it. What was he thinking? So the answer is like this. It says, the Torah tells you laws that you can and can't do. It doesn't tell you the reason why. We know some of the reasons, but doesn't say this is the reason. We know some of the reasons, and we know a drop in the bucket, a drop in the endless sea. But here it said that by King Solomon, it said, don't take too many wives because they will turn your heart astray. King Shlomo said, well, I know the reason now, and God gave me this tremendous wisdom. So I'm smart enough that I know the reason, I can be careful. But that was wrong, because just because you know the reason, God said don't do it, you're not going to figure it out. Okay, but why did he do it anyway? I'll tell you why he did it. Because there was no internet. What? There is only why? So what does that mean? So when Mashiach comes, you're all going to know it within 30 seconds. You're all going to know it in a minute. It's going to be online in 1 second. The truth is out. Mashiach is here. Put down your guns. Put down your swords. Get it together. You're going to know in 1 second. But Shlomo Melech said, well, what's the way I'm going to do this? There's no internet. How do I do this? He married the princesses of every single nation. And they went back to their nation and they told them the beauty of Torah. And some converted and some, it could be they didn't because they didn't take the converts already because truth was too clear, but they all became righteous Noachites. Everyone. That was his plan. So it didn't work, but Shlomo was the idea of the quality of the Mashiach. So this month, in the world, really, we talk about in a certain sense, it was created in the fall, but the Jewish people became a nation in the month of Nisan, and the quality has to be the quality of the moon, the quality of nullification to God. And I say, and we're all in this mission together. And as a person, that's why I'm sharing, even though I say I'm not talking about the Jewish people in particular only. There's lessons for all of us to learn, and the importance of learning our role in it. Okay, we want to be part of this. We want to be part of this mission. So that's the first point about the month of Nisan. Now, what happened in the month of Nisan? We're going to become, now, I said to you before, although we count according to the moon, we line it up with the spring. There's Jewish leap years, the 7 leap years within 19 years, okay, almost every 3 years is a leap year. And what that does, it adds an extra month so that the seasons are always balanced, that the Passover always comes in the spring. And why is that? Why does Passover come in the spring? Because, ladies and gentlemen, this is so crucial to understand. When we learn things about the depth of the Torah and reality, we can't have this childish vision that we have separating science and religion and separating that. Nothing is separate. It's all interconnected. It's all interconnected. Now, this is based on the northern hemisphere where the land of Israel still sits, but the springtime is a time where you naturally feel freedom. It's built into the time, right? The world is free. Mitzrayim, Egypt, is the word meitzar, a boundary. It's a limitation. The word meitzar is the word limitation and boundary. The Hebrew word for pain is called tsar because you're limited, you're narrow, you feel confined. You feel stuck. Mitzrayim is the boundary of the Yam, is the numerical value of 50 levels of wisdom. It's the highest level of feeling stuck. And ladies and gentlemen, I can't, Egypt was the cradle of society. What do you mean you're stuck? Do you not think we're stuck in America? You get stuck in your head. You could have all of the comforts we want, but a person could be a slave. Literally. I'm not being figurative, I'm being literal here. It says in the Mishnah, a true free person, someone who's a slave to the Torah. What does that mean? It means that if you go and you think you're free and you're working this, you're working that, and meantime you're stuck in what they're telling you to believe, and you're stuck in your obsessions and you're nervous and all the things you're stuck in, you're not truly free. So you could be in the richest society in the world and literally be a slave to the concepts, to the ideas, to the falsehoods of that society you live in. And that was Egypt. It was a very, very advanced place, but it had its rules. And you work within those rules. You can't get out of those rules. No one escapes Egypt. There's no real freedom here. The government's going to control this. Okay? That's what's happening. I don't mean to be too parallelism here, but a little bit. So there is this being stuck. And when you think things are over, because everything's dead outside, trees are dead, but you see that, no, it's still alive. You just didn't notice it. It was sleeping, it wasn't dead, right? Then when the spring comes, you feel freedom. Passover, Pesach is in the springtime because it's the ability of the human being to start again, to really realize. And it's not starting again like, well, I was dead, now I'm alive. That's not what it is. You weren't really dead. And this is the deepest thing I want you to all understand. It's so amazing because that's really the secret in life. The secret in life is that you were given a powerful soul. And now you got to spend your life bringing out that quality. That's what you got to do. And when you become great, it's not like, I made myself great. I'm so amazing. No, God gave you this quality and you worked to bring out what you always really were. You just didn't know it. Person is born this powerful soul, and then he gets this body on top of it, and he forgets what he really is, and then he goes into society, they tell him this, tell him that, and then all of a sudden he forgets what he is, And the famous Rabbi Nachman story about this prince who thought he was a turkey, and he's underneath the table, and he's acting like a turkey. And he's sitting there, and they brought the psychiatrist, and they brought everyone to get the king's kid has gone nuts. He thinks he's a turkey under the table. So they bring they bring everyone in, the philosophers, the psychiatrists. No one can help him. They bring in the rabbi. The rabbi says, "Okay, I'll take care of it." The rabbi goes underneath the table, and then the kid says, "What are you doing here?" "I'm a turkey like you." Really? Says, "Yeah, I'm also at the table. I'm a turkey looks like you are." Says, but just because we're turkeys doesn't mean we can't wear clothes. The turkeys can wear clothes. Yeah. Okay. Just because we're turkeys Doesn't mean we have to eat the crumbs on the floor. Really? Yeah. Turkeys can sit at the table too. Sit at the table. Turkeys eat with a knife and fork. Really? What happened? He said, listen, this is the world you're stuck in. You're a prince who thinks he's a turkey. We are made in the image of God, and we think we're turkeys. That's what's happening. So we walk around thinking, this is what I could do. This is all I can do. This is what. No. The freedom is not I'm a new person. But the freedom is that I realize that what's inside of me is so great that in the winter, when I thought I was dead, I wasn't. And now in the spring, I can come out. And therefore, Passover is in the month of the spring, because spring is the rejuvenation of the world. And it shows you that the thing wasn't dead. It was sleeping. That's why we bury a person as an aside, because the idea of coming out again. Okay, amazing. Now, so that lesson is for all of us. We all have to become free people. Free people means the following. Free people does not mean what they think it means in America. I've said many times, in America, freedom now means that you get 3 cars, I get 3 cars, you get 16 TVs, I get 16 TVs. That's what it means. That's not what freedom is. That's not what the founding fathers of America, we talked about last week, but it's just important to repeat because it's so misunderstood. Freedom means that you have an important mission, and therefore you need to do what you need to do, and you have to be able to express yourself. And if you don't have all the comforts, that's worth nothing compared to the idea that you have a value that you have to bring out in the world. That's why slavery is so bad. And I said this once in my synagogue. I said, listen, I had a question. I got a job offer for you. You work 5 hours a day. I pay you $1 million a year. 5 hours a day, that's all I want. Now, but everything you make on the 5 hours or otherwise is mine. You work according to what I need you to do, what I tell you to do, when I tell you to do it. Anything you make is mine. It's off duty or not. I own it. It's mine. I can do what I want with it. So your 5 hours you work, you could build something and I could smash it because it's mine. It doesn't matter. But I will pay you for the 5 hours of work, $1 million a year, and I'll let you do what you want to do. Would you take it? So everyone looked around, was like, yeah, maybe my job, I work 10 hours and I make $20,000. Why would I take it? I said, because you're not free. Because freedom means that when you build something, it's what you express in the world. If the slavery is so bad because the master is the mind and the slave is the body. The master is the head telling the body what to do. And every human being needs the quality of, I am deciding what I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to do. If you control my product, and I can't build anything, I can't make anything of value in this world because you own it, so I can have all the comforts I want, but I didn't express myself, I'm not really free. Understand that? It's crazy. But that's really what freedom means. Freedom means the ability to know I have an important mission and I can express it. That's what it was built on, not on your comforts, because the comforts, they could delude you. You could be a total slave. And by the way, I'm not into politics, but that's part of the thing. That's part of, we'll give you money. Just do what I tell you. Because I'm good to you. I'm giving you money. You got to do what I say. Well, I don't want to do what you say. Let's have laws that protect their rights, my rights, and everyone else's rights. But I have to see the world the way you see the world. That is the power of freedom that we all have to get to. And that is the lesson of Passover. Pesach is that they had it bad. Jews had it bad. They're beating them. But even if they had it good, slavery to a human being is bad. Now, one of the things that happened before the Jews went free, This is what I want you to understand here is the process. Was God gave a commandment on the 10th of Nisan. So we're coming to the first of the month of Nisan this week. On the 10th of Nisan, it was a Shabbat, Saturday, and God gave a commandment. The commandment was to go and to take a sheep and to tie the sheep on at the edge of the bed and to watch the sheep that had no blemishes. Because on right before Passover, the Paschal lamb, you're going to slaughter the sheep. That Shabbat, the Jews took the sheep, is called the Great Shabbat, Shabbat HaGadol. Why? Because Egyptians, they worshiped the sheep. They worshiped the sheep. And they said, hey, why is the whole nation taking a sheep and tying it to their bedpost? And we said, well, because in 4 days, we're going to slaughter the sheep. We're going to smear the blood on the doorpost, and we're going to eat it. And now the masters, the Egyptians who worship the sheep, what? You're gonna go and you're gonna kill our gods and smear the blood, and then how they cook the Paschal lamb? They roasted it, right? A barbecue. Smell is wafting through the air, right? Egyptians walking along the road. Wow, roasted gods. That's what they're smelling, right? And they couldn't say anything. They were beaten. And they couldn't do anything. But the quality you needed was to stand up, was to say, you know what? We've been absorbed into society. The Jews were like the Egyptians. And the Jews had to go and say, we're taking a stand. We're going to say, your God is nothing. It's a sheep. It's a sheep. And therefore, it was the power of that ability to break away from the herd and to go and to say that, no, I don't subscribe to this thing. And you can do what you want to do. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. I don't know. That's God's calculation. I'm not part of that. And the Jews, at the risk to their own lives, went and they took the sheep. Now, you guys might ask, I may have talked about this before, but who's to say? You might say to me, wait a minute, what kind of dummies are worshiping a sheep? I mean, that's pretty stupid. I mean, maybe a lion, I don't know, but a sheep? Like, that's pretty silly, you know? So what was the point of the sheep? Very, very, very deep to understand this. I may have said it before, but it's important to hear it again. So the Egyptians were masters of the occult. And as somebody put in the note before, the spring is the beginning. It's the beginning of the cycle. The first constellation is also the spring month. The zodiac is considered the first one is the month of the sign of Aries. Aries is the sheep. And that's why the Egyptians worshiped the sheep, because they said, it wasn't really, they weren't so dumb. They thought it was the sheep. It was a symbol. The symbol was the source of power, the number one. Who is the power base? That was Pharaoh's belief. That's why even the word paro stands is the Hebrew letters ha'oref, the nape of the neck. Pharaoh said, I am not going up to the source. I'm not going up to, oh, there's a God. Who? He said, I don't know this God you refer to, the name of Hashem. He didn't understand what it was. He said he knew Elohim. He knew power. Okay, your God, I think, maybe has some power. This God has power. I don't want to go to the source. I don't want that. What I believe is what my power base is, that's where it's at, which is really what society says today. That this is my technology, this is my science. You know, we'll figure out the cures for this, this, and this, and this, because when God doesn't get in our way, we'll be okay. So everyone believes their power is what their control is, and that's their gods. They worship the sheep because they said the sheep is the symbol of the first. That's why they worship the firstborn. That's why the last plague was the firstborn. That's why their power was the firstborn. It was all about who's in charge. That's what Pharaoh said. Pharaoh says, the Nile is mine, and I made myself. What does he mean? He knows he didn't make himself. What do you mean? He's calls himself a god. Did he really not know? He was fooling people, but he fooled himself. He fooled himself because he says, I'm in charge. I'm in control. And that's the idea of the sheep also, that if a sheep follows the leader, and if you become what's called holy sheep, you follow the source. And that was the process of what the Jews did and what everyone needs to do. We're coming into the month of freedom. Freedom means breaking out from all the lies, the Mitzrayim, the things that are constricting us in falsehoods and not reality. You got to break out of it. You got to take that sheep and say, I'm not part of this. I am not going to be part of this illusion of the power. There's one source of power and one source of power alone. He runs the world. And when you go, like we said in the beginning, like King David, and you make yourself humble and you say, I want to reflect that light in the world because that's where it's from. And to the degree I think it's me, I'm living an illusion. When you do that, you're connected to the endless source and you can bring real freedom and beauty into this world. Okay, that's my thought. Ideas, comments, feedback. Okay.
Who has comments or questions? Now would be the time to share it.
Thought it was a ram, right? A male lamb, that would be a ram. Females, right? All ewes, right? Right. So you're asking as far as the law of the Passover can be either one. The law of the Passover can be a goat or a sheep. The ram is what they worship, but they extended the astrological sign is called Aries, but they extended their worship to all sheep. So yes, there's a difference between male sheep and female sheep, difference between certain offerings, what you can bring, you can't bring. But in terms of the Egyptians, it was the month of Aries, which they took as a sign for all sheep, and the Passover offering could be from a sheep, even could be from a goat that was still in the same family. Yeah. Okay. Other questions, ideas, thoughts?
Any questions, any comments or thoughts?
Yeah, comments are welcome too.
Yes, I've got a question. So with Pesach coming up soon, and I know this is a little off topic, but what are some areas that Noahide could actually participate in terms of the holiday itself? Because my understanding was it is specifically kind of only for the Jewish nation, but I could be wrong on this.
Well, in a certain sense it is. That's why I started. But what I extended it to was the learning and the sentiment and the qualities that applies to everyone. So that's why I extended it. And Noah is not obligated to eat matzah, to get rid of leaven, but the concepts of what Passover is a universal thing that everyone needs to work on. So that's why what I said today was really what I think should be your Passover. Yeah, I mean, whatever. If you want to do things commemorative or not, that's okay. But the point is that there's no obligation, but there is the concept of saying, I need to understand this one source. It's the spring. I need to get freedom. I need to get all the stuff that's blocking my head out of the way. I need to take a stand on what is true and not be sucked into things that are false in my environment. So that those freedom lessons are the world lessons.
So the chametz is kind of a symbol for something that weighs us down or keeps us,
Yeah. The chametz is like this. The chametz is leaven. It makes everything.
Right. I meant,
So that represents the ego.
right. Okay.
And I go and I say, I know, I figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not open. So Passover, the in terms of obligation of the Jewish people, it's to start at the beginning. When you want to go learn guitar, I always learn guitar, and he comes along and says, I want to play like Jimi Hendrix. He puts his teeth on the guitar. He says, no, you have to hold the guitar right first, But I know all these guys play guitar like this. Yeah, after 20 years of playing guitar, you want to play with your teeth, then we could talk, So when you start out on anything you learn, you say, I don't know. If you say you know, you don't learn anything. So that's why the whole Passover beginning is the beginning. And if the Jewish people have to get rid of all of it, say, okay, I'm not here. And again, and this lesson as a moral lesson is really relevant to everyone, even if they're not obligated on the actual mitzvot of the day. They are obligated on the concepts of knowing truth, freedom, expressing that in the world, and having the mindset to be able to experience that.
Yeah. I love matzah. So
I saw I had a question in the bottom from Carl. Let me pull it up. I saw the question. Do Mitzrayim and Sarat are common? Yes. Root word in Sadik. I can't read the next line. In Sadik and Reish, Aleph, or Ayin. Yeah. So there is this. Yes, the word Sarat and Mitzrayim share the common thing. Yes, Sarat is which is the spiritual leprosy. It's in the word Sar. And Mitzora is he's Sar ayin. It's a narrowing. Sarat comes from the narrowing of how I see the world, because I speak badly about people. I have a narrow view. I'm stuck in that thing, and the person who gets Sarat gets the spiritual leprosy is the person who's stuck in that narrow view, can't take a broader perspective. Like we talked about last week, the broader perspective is that this is not yours. It's not yours. It's not supposed to be yours. It's not good for you. So, but I have to have what they have. So Tsarat and is the word Tsar, as the word Mitzrayim is also from the boundary. They are connected roots. Yes. Beautiful. Very good. All right. I think that's it for this week. We're going to be on next week, God willing, and from the Holy Land. We will tell you what is going on there in the Holy Land. And
right on. Well, I look forward to that, Rabbi. Make sure you send me a message in advance so I can advertise to make sure the time's correct, because I dropped the ball yesterday. I was good last week when we did our daylight savings. But then it kind of still forgot they haven't done it yet in Israel. But are they not? They do.
They're doing it next week. So next week we'll be ready there.
I would like to also make a quick announcement, admin thing. Monday, Tuesday classes are suspended until after Pesach. And Rabbi Weissman joined us this evening. We really appreciate you taking time to join us in the class. We really love and respect you. So
thank you so much.
Okay, guys, and we'll see you Wednesday for the weekly Parsha and Thursday morning. So if you're finished, Dan, I'm finished.
All right, then that'll be our Working Together series with the Netiv group out of Houston, Texas, live with Rabbi Karmi Ingber. Always exciting. And next week, he's planning to be with us, though he will be back in the Holy Land. And we always know that that's inspirational, so I'm sure he'll be pumped and have some fresh ideas. So I think it'll be exciting, especially with Pesach coming. So till next week, have a wonderful, wonderful week, everybody.